$5,000 here. It's all the money I have. Please, take it. I need this mask. I need to be scary for Halloween. I can't take the responsibility. I must go. Please, leave. Now. Here's your money. What's up? Today on FearFlix we're going to take a look at one of my all-time favorite shows from the 90s, Goosebumps. As a matter of fact, we're going to take a look at the very first episode of that show, my personal favorite episode, The Haunted Mask.
Hey look, it's a new store. Where'd that come from? I don't know, but it's just in time for Halloween. Novelty shop. Wow. Pretty scary, huh? Yeah.
Now, as I said, The Haunted Mask was the first official episode of the Goosebumps television series, and it premiered on October 27th, 1995.
Books to life in the most thrilling, spine-tingling series ever. Goosebumps, coming this fall to Fox Kids.
And obviously it was based on the Goosebumps book of the same name by the legendary R.L. Stine. Now, a lot of people seem to praise this particular episode of Goosebumps more than the others, mainly because this episode, unlike the rest of the episodes in the series, this episode has a very different feel to it, a very different look and feel to it. It has a very unsettling and creepy feeling to the whole thing, you know, and there's a lot of atmosphere to this episode. As a perfect example, I mean, just take a listen to some of the music in this thing and tell me if this doesn't creep you the fuck out.
Hello, I'm R.L. Stine. I write the Goosebumps books. In a few minutes, you're going to see one of my favorite stories come alive. The Haunted Mask is a frightening Halloween story about a girl named Carly Beth. The horror begins when Carly Beth puts on the evil haunted mask, and it ends when she discovers there is nothing more powerful than the love of her family and friends. What's so scary about that? You'll see. Viewers beware. You're in for a scare.
You see what I mean? It's creepy as shit. The music is actually one of my favorite aspects about this whole, not just this episode, but the whole series in general. I mean, this particular episode the music is just it has this innocent yet unsettling feel to it that, as I said, adds a whole lot of atmosphere to this whole episode, and it really sticks with you, and it really makes this episode come off a lot scarier, especially if you're a little kid. Come to think of it, all the music on this show was awesome, at least in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel, but ever since that show was on, every time I hear a harp played in any way, shape, or form, it automatically reminds me of how kick-ass Goosebumps was and how much it scared the living shit out of me when I was a little kid. This is definitely one episode that's really a must-watch around Halloween. Even if you're just a horror movie fan, just for the atmosphere and the feel alone, I mean, this episode is Halloween. You know, there's no better way to get into the mood for Halloween and to get into Halloween spirit than to watch The Haunted Mask. The basic idea of The Haunted Mask is that we have this girl, Carly Beth, played by Catherine Long, who is pretty much tormented at her school by these two bullies named Chuck and Steve.
Really, Carly Beth, we're really sorry. Really.
Fine, just leave me alone from now on, okay?
All right, whatever you want. Me and Steve, we're just gonna totally leave you alone. Isn't that right, Steve?
Right, Chuck. Can you two losers disappear? What's wrong, Carly Beth? Oh, it's a worm!
just stuff that really makes you want to punch these douchebags in the face. So the basic premise of this episode is that Carly Beth just gets fed up with all this shit and decides that this time for Halloween, this is going to be the one year that she finally gets back at these pricks. She's going to finally get a mask and a costume for Halloween that's so fucking scary, and she's going to scare the living shit out of these kids and make them wish that they never messed with her and make sure that they never mess with her again. So she eventually finds this mysterious costume shop with this guy. We don't really ever know his name, this guy who runs the shop, and he's hilariously cheesy.
What are you doing here?
He's got this over-the-top, I think it's like a fucking Russian accent, it's something like that. If you're a kid, this guy's scary as fuck, and he's creepy, and he's got that shit on his face, we don't know what the hell that is. Eventually she finds this mask in the back of the shop that apparently, with this whole line of masks that are apparently off limits, and this guy flips out because he won't sell these masks to her because, you know, he pretty much tells her that there's things that she doesn't understand about it, and he can't take the responsibility of what happens to her if he lets her take the mask. So obviously she steals the mask and throws the money at him, and he flips out and screams in a very strange way.
No! Must leave, please! Now! Do!
Here's your money.
And of course, the mask ends up being cursed. It ends up being haunted, and when she puts it on 3 times, it ends up permanently sticking to her face.
Bye-bye, Curly Beth. Bye-bye. Wow. Whoa. Carly Beth, you are scary.
We eventually find out later on in the episode that they're not masks, they're real fucking faces.
I cannot remove that mask
Why not?
because it is not a mask. It is a real face. You're the only one who ever wanted them. The only one who ever loved them.
No! No! I want it off! I want it off now! Take it off me! I hate this face! I hate this face! I hate it! I hate it!
Carly Beth, I'm sorry. But this face is your face now.
No! No!
I won't spoil too much else of the story for you, but it really is an interesting episode, and the moral of the story is pretty much to love yourself and appreciate yourself and to not give a shit about what other people think. And it's really a good message, even though, you know, the whole idea of this show is to scare the shit out of you. This is really one of the few episodes of Goosebumps that, even though there is a lot of cheese to it, it still really, it comes off in a very effective way. As I said, especially if you're a little kid, but it's very creepy, you know, and it holds up to me, you know. When I watch this episode, I don't feel like, man, this is so old, this is definitely 90s. I feel like this episode, as I said, it holds up. It's still, the creep factor stays with it, in my opinion. And anytime I watch this episode around Halloween, or any episode of Goosebumps, really, it really puts me right back into the Halloween frame of mind, and it's really so much fun to gather with some friends, gather some popcorn, gather some candy, sit in the dark, and put on the haunted mask, and just reflect on better days gone by. You know, our childhood in the 90s, at least I grew up in the 90s, and Goosebumps was the shit back then. You know, I absolutely loved it, even though it gave me nightmares. So if you're going to check out a Goosebumps episode this Halloween, make sure it's the haunted mask. And you can even check out the Haunted Mask 2 if you want. You know, it's not as good, but it's still an okay conclusion to the story. Good episode. Felt good. Oh, time to get this. The fuck is it?
Halloween has brought you back.
I will stop you. Stop you.